Good morning, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and it's time for another Charter Moms Chats. This is how I'm trying to connect with the community and offer helpful resources while we're educating our children at home because of coronavirus. So it's May, and I think most of us are still doing distance learning packets, but it won't be long. It'll be summer. But there's kind of a question mark about whether camps or summer activities will be available. And I think a lot of us have put our travel plans on hold for a while. So this week, we're kind of looking on the bright side about what are ways that we can keep the learning going. And yesterday we had a published blog post that I'm really proud of. It's a partnership with Learn Everywhere, which is a Facebook group and a website with curated resources that will help you ideas and prompts and activities that you can do with your kids at home. And then there's a new online group, Learn Everywhere, that with where parents can ask each other questions. So like I'm really proud of the SA Charter Moms webpage, and I'm really proud of the San Antonio Charter Moms discussion group on Facebook. I hope you're already a member. If not, I hope you'll join right away. And it's parents helping parents and to problem solve and share ideas. We can take in so much information about the virtual learning resources that are out there, but it really helps to have a friendly guide, parents who are in the same situation you are, who can suggest, well, here's what would work for your kid's age, or, here's how you introduce that or make a hands-on activity that goes with that. And the Learn Everywhere group is in the same spirit, but it's on a national level. So there are like people there who have experience with homeschooling or with virtual learning. Online schools have been around for a long time. They just were always kind of a niche. And now we're all online schoolers, right? So that's the theme this week is talking about Learn Everywhere. You'll see posts we're doing with the hashtag Learn Everywhere. So far this week, we've talked about the San Antonio Botanical Garden, which has reopened, and my kids and I went there over the weekend, and it was wonderful. But we offered some tips about, how to make it work. Let's see, what else have we talked? Yeah, then that was Monday, and then yesterday was kind of our manifesto about Learn Everywhere. It's been my belief all along that the responsibility for learning rests with parents, that we're the ultimate decider about, like, is the school working for my kid? Do I need my child to go to a different school? Do they need homeschooling? What kind of support or enrichment do they need? That's why, like, our ethos in the group is really, if you choose a charter school, that's great. If you choose your neighborhood school or a private school or homeschooling, we're there with you too. The name Charter Moms kind of stuck because that was our initial goal, was getting the word out about new charter schools opening. But these times are a little different, and we're all adapting as best we can to a world of it's all fallen in our laps, right? I'm thankful for the help from the teachers and the distance packets, but a lot of it is on us. So so keeping with the theme of Learn Everywhere, there's so much stuff you can do at home, but I do want to spread the word about things that you can do safely outdoors with your kids. And so today I wanted to talk about the Texas state parks, which they closed briefly around Easter, but for the most part they've been open, at least. We'll talk about what ways to use the state parks and how best to access them. And I have visual aids too. So okay, and I can read the comments. So if you have a question or a tip you want to share, go ahead and drop a comment, and I'll address it on the air or afterwards. So okay, so what do we got here? Oh, visual aids. Okay, so if you go to the website, and there's a link in the description, this is the official state parks guide. I don't know if this is up to date. This one's a little weathered. It's been in our kitchen because we play with it and stuff. But yeah, there's just an incredible variety of state parks out there. So we've been kind of surveying which ones are closest to San Antonio. So like one of the closest ones is Government Canyon State Natural Area. That's kind of on the northwest side near Helotes. And it has a lot of hiking trails. It was a big reason why it was set up was to be habitat for endangered birds. It's part of a habitat conservation plan. And so actually there are some restrictions about pets at certain times of year. You can't take them into certain parts of the park because that's when the birds are nesting, things like that. So, but yeah, and then let's see, I think, so some of the parks nearby are on creeks and have places where you can access the water. So I think so. Guadalupe River is a popular one for that. Pinellas Falls, that's a little bit farther north. And then it's also Garner State Park, which is out to the west. And then some are it's just about the, I should have mentioned Government Canyon. There are dinosaur tracks there. And I got the chance to go out there one time with a group from the Whitty Museum and like see where the dinosaur tracks are. It's a bit of a longer walk from the entrance. So we haven't, but that's one of our goals. During coronavirus, so one of some of our options are limited, is to be able to hike all the way out to the dinosaur tracks and back at Government Canyon. And I mean, some are about scenery, like Lost Maples is really popular in the fall because that's when the leaves change color. But we went out there last month and just to see, it was just beautiful. The trees were green. There were a lot of wildflowers in bloom. The creeks were flowing. Yeah, it was just really nice. And some of the state parks are more about history, right? So, so not too far from San Antonio, there's Goliad State Park, right? Which, there were some important battles there and events in the Texas Revolution. And LBJ's ranch is also, there's Lyndon Johnson State Park. There's also a national park related to LBJ up in Johnson City, or up in that area. I don't know. I'm not up to date on, some of the indoor things, whether they're open or not. So, like, for example, this is a slight tangent, but like the missions in San Antonio, most of the missions, except for the Alamo, are part of the national park system. And my family and we visited the grounds of the missions during the pandemic, but we have not. The churches were closed. Now, you may have noticed. Was it yesterday? It was Monday. The Archbishop did a little flying tour around the city to announce when parishes would be reopening, which is, I believe, the 19th. It's maybe a week or so from now. So I don't know. That may affect the reopening of the missions. I'm not up to date on that, so I'll research that and I'll put an update in the group. So I would say don't quote me on the historical sites about whether any of the indoor spaces are open. But as far as I know, if it's a historical site and you can experience it from the outdoors, you should be safe doing that. Okay, so those are some of the attractions. Let's see, what else? I'm looking at the map. Anyway, this is what I'm looking at. This is what I keep peeking at. So it comes with the guide. It's the Texas State Parks map. So another park that my family and I have been to recently is Palmetto State Park, which is to the east, and it's a swamp. Or as my daughter says, schwamp. I don't know why she says it that way. Yeah, it's cool. There's like little palm trees growing under the big elms and live oaks and stuff. And there's a really cool, they call it the refectory. It's kind of a lodge, kind of an open air picnic area with a cover, but it's beautiful. It's in the sort of woodsy style, like natural stone. It was built by the Civilian Conservation Corps during the New Deal, so in like 1936-37, and the architecture is it's stunning. I mean, so and it's right on the banks of the San Marcos River. So it's not necessarily what you expect, right? You go to a state park and there's a swamp and there's lots of palm trees and Spanish moss and stuff, and then there you go. There's like this sort of elvish looking, really cool. It's then we had a little picnic there. So there's really cool stuff at the state parks. Okay, so let me offer some tips about how to access the state parks. Let's see. I have another visual aid. Okay, so this is a Texas State Parks Pass, and it gives you, so you can buy it online. And once you tie it to your account, you can log in to the reservation system and get a free day pass at any of the parks. And what's nice about that is that you can visit multiple times and not have to pay the entry fee. And but just in general, even if you don't get the state parks pass, I highly recommend making reservations online, because they have limited the number of visitors allowed at each state park. So I think it seems like the online reservation system is fairly new. I think a lot of people are still in the habit of just getting in the car and going, and like I think people sometimes they get turned away. Like for example, at Enchanted Rock, which is a really popular park, sometimes like the parking areas would get full or the trails would get full, and they would turn people away. And so the reservation system was a way to address that. Like you'd say, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and get an advanced reservation. These days, because they're limiting the number of visitors in the parks to make it safer, you really need an advanced reservation. And if you go online and you see that it's sold out, like don't go to the park that day. Just try to make a reservation for a different day, maybe farther in the future. So it seems like the way it usually works is you can get a pass for up to 30 days in advance. So if you go online now, you could get something for a weekend in June, maybe. Now being kind of mid-May. So kind of keep an eye if there's a particular weekend that you want to do a trip to a state park. Be sure to log in around 30 days in advance, and then you'll be able to grab a spot for that day. And from what I can tell from the reservation system, weekdays are a lot more available than weekends. And so we've been going on the weekends, but we try to get there early. It is going to get hot in the summer. So for example, if you go to Government Canyon, be sure and bring plenty of water with you, because once you leave kind of the Welcome Center, there's nowhere to get water inside the park. So you really want to bring plenty of water with you so you don't get dehydrated while you're hiking. It can be okay. So when we went to Lost Maples, the bathrooms were open, so that was a good thing. But some facilities like gift shops or things like that might be closed. So that's another way where having the online reservation is really helpful, because it has a barcode on it, so you can just print your reservation. When you enter, they can scan the barcode. You leave it on your dashboard. It can be contactless, so that's made our experience feel a lot safer when we've been visiting state parks, to not have to be in close contact. Let's see. Sometimes they'll have maybe outside the check-in, they'll have a little stack of maps with a rock on it, and that way, if you want to get a trail map, you can grab one, and you don't necessarily have to get too close to a human being. I don't know. It's just weird. All these things working a little differently these days. Let's see. If you think of what else. Oh, I guess if you had a camping reservation before, it might still be valid, but you may or may not be able to make new camping reservations. I'm not clear on that. The instructions were a little confusing to me. So I would say, be cautious about camping. What they're really encouraging is to go online, get your reservation for a day pass, go to the park during your time slot, when you can check in, enjoy the park, and then go home. And, that makes sense as a way to, kind of spread people out. So our experience when we were at at Lost Maples, at Palmetto State Park, was that the other visitors were very courteous, and people would make way for each other across the trails. Some people wore masks, some people didn't wear masks. We were wearing our masks. I have a neck gaiter that I can pull up over my nose, and we have some handmade masks that we're wearing. It's safer if you wear a mask, but they're not strictly enforcing it. So it's a user judgment. I think just being out in the open air and being physically spaced out from other people, that just makes it feel a lot safer. So I'm trying to think. Okay, so the educational benefits of the state parks. The ones that we've been to so far recently, the Lost Maples and the Palmetto State Park, it was a really interesting contrast of ecosystems, right? Because Lost Maples is it's west of San Antonio. It's in the hill country, but it's kind of in the western hill country. It's a little higher elevation. There are some hills, some limestone hills, and you can see the geology, different layers of rock, and you can see where boulders have kind of cracked off the cliff faces and rolled into the creek. And it's and so it's a kind of it's an area where there's a consistent amount of water, and so the maples grow there, even though they're kind of isolated from other areas of maples. So it just makes for a really interesting geography, and we it's just really nice to see the changing of the seasons too. So when we went to Lost Maples, there were still a lot of wildflowers out, and because it's at a higher elevation, spring got there a little later. So we just saw just all kinds of stuff. And then it's fun to like see the bugs and birds and hopefully not too many snakes, right? But but so I mean we go walking in parks and stuff in San Antonio, but the nice thing about the state parks is that they're bigger and you get a bigger chunk of ecosystem and you get more biodiversity in that area. And like Lost Maples in particular, there's the state park, but there's private land around it, but the private land is mostly undeveloped as well. And so it the animals are roaming all over. The hawks have a pretty wide range to go hunting around. And then, but it was a real contrast between what we saw at Lost Maples versus what we saw at Palmetto State Park, right? Because that's a swamp, so it's there's the sort of floodplain area, right? That's fed by the San Marcos River, but then there's a lot of cracks in limestone with creeks and pools of water, and the palmettos seem to, right? Palmettos, you think of that as like maybe something from like South Carolina or Florida, right? But the dwarf palmettos are living there again. Kind of, it's a unique small climate area and with more moisture, and so it's just a little different than the surrounding areas. And it was fun. We saw like lots of dragonflies, and there were still some wildflowers, and it just felt really good to walk around and breathe fresh air. And plus it was the history of the park was interesting, like to see the architecture and I talked to the kids about the Depression and the New Deal, and in some ways there's parallels to what's happening now with like PPP and small business loans and stuff. We don't know how serious the economic crisis is going to be, but the unemployment is very high right now, and we don't know how long it will take to recover, especially in places like San Antonio that depend so much on tourism, and tourism has essentially stopped for the time being. So that's a real concern. It's going to affect the state budget. It may affect school finance for the next few years. There's just a lot of unknowns. So, but I promised I would try to stay positive this week. So, thank goodness, like the state parks they're open, they're accessible. It may take a little planning to get a reservation at the park that you want, but if you just keep that 30-day window in mind and plan ahead a little bit. And once distance learning ends for the summer, or like honestly, if you just take a day in the middle of the week, I'm not telling, right? Just get the homework done on Saturday, and just get your state parks reservation. Go head to the river. We've got a little extra flexibility here now, right? Because they don't have to be in a school building, and we can go out and enjoy the outdoors. And some of the memories and some of the lessons that they learned from having family time at a state park, those may be things that they hold on to for a long time, right? They may remember feeling a little scared, or like, well, why do I have to wash my hands so much? Or, why can't I hug this relative? Or, kids may feel fear about things like that, but hopefully they will also remember things like, cooking together, or, going on hikes, or like, landmarks and places you saw. For me, I'm a planner. I like checklists. I like having bucket lists and crossing things off. And, for me to be able to visit parks that I've been wanting to visit and have never been to before, it gives me a sense of optimism and stuff to look forward to. So we're hoping to go to Enchanted Rock soon. And like, strangely enough, I've actually never been. It's been on the wish list, and we've tried a few times before, but got rained out. So that's one park where like you really don't want to try to go in the rain, is what people tell me, because they'll close a lot of the trails if they're wet. If the creeks are running, some of the trails are closed. And yeah, you don't want to slip and fall on your butt on the granite. So so hoping for clear weather on the day that we have our passes to go to Enchanted Rock. And yeah, the folks in the Charter Moms group had some good tips about how to get to the top of the rock and how to find the caves, and just all kinds of good tips and good memories. Some cute pictures of group members with their families enjoying Enchanted Rock. So that is my contribution to how you can #learn everywhere. Is you can do it at home, and you can do it at parks in your neighborhood, and you can also do it at state parks. And there are a bunch of them in the San Antonio area. So you can download the app. Yes, there's an app. You can get on the website and request the guide, which includes the map. And if you are going to go pretty often, I recommend that you sign up for the Texas State Parks Pass, so that you can save on your entry fees as you keep going. So tell me how it goes. Okay. So what's coming up this week? We have a guest on Thursday and a guest on Friday. I'm very excited. So on Thursday, we are talking to curator Ryan Badger from the Briscoe Western Art Museum, and we wanted to focus on a local museum that's really going out of their way to provide virtual learning resources for families. And we'll also talk to them about their plans to reopen the museum, which is not too far off. So Thursday's guest is Ryan Badger from the Briscoe Western Art Museum. And then on Friday, we are talking to a member of the class of 2020, this year's seniors. And a lot of their plans got overthrown because of coronavirus. But so Adina Ichalov is the valedictorian at Brooks Collegiate Academy. And she and her dad are going to be our guests to talk about, how it feels to be a member of the class of 2020, how virtual learning has been for her. I'm really looking forward to hearing from them, because I know it's been tough on the seniors, and I want to honor them and celebrate them as best we can. So that's what's coming up on Charter Moms Chats, and I hope I'll see you on the Facebook group. All right, take care.